Let's turn now to the anatomy of the heart. Open the Heart Models slideshow on the Q drive
and see the excellent diagrams starting on page 655 of your text.
In the first slide, you can see the apex and the base of the heart. This terminology seems backwards because the apex is inferior and the base is at the top of the heart. This doesn't make much sense. This is because the base of the heart is the place where the blood vessels enter and exit, which is at the top of the heart. And the apex is the point of the heart. Apex means point. It doesn't mean top. It means point. Now mountains are pointed at the top, so the apex of a mountain is usually at the top. But the apex of the heart, no, it's at the bottom. That's the point of the heart. What's the point of the heart, Mr. Rupert? The apex. In the next slide, you can see the major external anatomy of the heart. Notice that the auricles are the external flap of tissue that lies over the atrium of the heart. They are not the same thing as the atrium. Auricles and atrium are not the same thing. The auricles are the external flap. The atrium is the cavity of the heart. Notice in this slide also the aorta and the vena cava. These are the largest vessels in the human body. In humans, the aorta is about 1/2 inch in diameter. In the blue whale, the aorta is 1 foot in diameter. Can you imagine that? In the next slide, you see the major vessels that feed the cardiac muscle. The heart has to have a blood supply other than that which goes through it. It has to have a capillary bed to provide enough surface area for oxygen exchange. The blood going through the heart would not supply enough oxygen to the muscle tissue, so it has its own supply, the coronary arteries. The coronary arteries supply that blood. In this slide, you can also see the great cardiac vein that carries blood away from the heart. On the next slide, you can see another vein that drains the heart. It is the coronary sinus that collects blood from the other cardiac veins. When the blood supply flowing through the coronary arteries is blocked, then the heart will not receive its supply of oxygen. The result is cardiac muscle death and a heart attack. If blockage is detected, the obstruction can be cleared by angioplasty or a bypass can be surgically implanted. This is also known as coronary bypass surgery. In the next slide, you can see the aorta, aortic arch, and the 3 blood vessels that come off the aortic arch. In order, they are the brachiocephalic artery, the left common carotid artery, and the left subclavian artery. The brachiocephalic goes to the right side and branches shortly into the right common carotid and right subclavian. Notice there is no brachiocephalic on the left side. This is the usual arrangement, but there can be variations in the anatomy. The next slide shows some of this variation and the alternate plumbing that some humans are born with. Isn't that interesting?